3 months ago, I said the Rafah assault probably wouldn't happen. It's operationally impossible. Israel has no achievable goals. The resistance is still active in the north, but sometimes I forget that every decision Israel makes is in its own worst interest, and its only agenda is genocide and ethnic cleansing at all costs. It's absolute insanity, but let's break down the major developments and what they mean going forward. So 20 hours ago, Hamas accepted the proposal presented by Qatar and Egypt. When mentioning these two, it implies involvement from the U.S. and the brokerage of the CIA. Arab governments were hoping Hamas would accept it since they fear the Rafah invasion as a flashpoint for civil unrest in their own populations, since they are complicit in a genocide of other Arabs for the sake of Western interests in the region. So a ceasefire agreement will mean a new government in Israel because Smotrich and Ben-Gvir will leave office, which will cause Netanyahu the majority. Replacing Bibi with Yair Lapid is another lunatic dude, but it's also a U.S. goal. Bibi doesn't want this, so he greenlit the Rafah operation in order to play for time. Israel has not achieved any of its objectives, whereas the resistance has, having exposed the complicity of Arab regimes, the hypocrisy of international law, the bias and rapacious greed of the Western establishment, which again Arab leaders are a part of. They've temporarily stalemated the Saudi-Israeli normalization process, and they've exposed how weak, incompetent, and immoral the Israeli army is. So someone is playing chess, the other one is playing checkers, and this conflict will be won not through strength of arms, but through geopolitical savvy. So Israel has taken over the Rafah crossing on the Egyptian border. This was expected given that Israel has lost the war both militarily and politically. It is now wholly bent on displacing and starving 2.2 million people into accepting an invitation to be voluntarily relocated outside of Gaza through an aid port. It's notable that the idea of occupation of the Philadelphia corridor is in violation of the 1979 peace accord with Egypt. Since there's been no official protest from the Egyptian government, we must assume they have given Israel their blessing, which is unsurprising considering the billions Egypt has received this year from the IMF, World Bank, various Gulf states, and the European Union. All of this being said, Israel has far exceeded its window of legitimacy. Thought-terminating cliches like Hamas, free the hostages, are beyond ringing hollow. This has been a political disaster for the United States, and the U.S. has lost significant leverage in the Middle East in particular and the global South in general. CIA Director William Burns continues to try and broker a U.S. deal between Hamas and Israel, one which Hamas accepted and Israel refused. Forget idiotic congressmen like Tom Cotton who don't know the difference between China and Singapore. The greater U.S. establishment wants this war to end, if only to safeguard U.S. strategic interests around the globe. The game is up. Israel is just treading water, hoping for the political situation to change, which it won't. The U.S. still supports Israel and will do whatever is necessary to fund it. However, the current state of the war is not sustainable. And once a ceasefire happens, Israel will lose for real, for real. In the meantime, the Rafah assault will be a catastrophe. We will be going into all of this in more detail tomorrow morning on the Colonial Outcast podcast. Link in bio if you're interested. If you're protesting, ratchet up the pressure. Cheers.